The most dangerous enemy isn't the one who screams your name in hatred. It's the one who smiles, shakes your hand, and quietly digs your grave. Have you ever felt that uneasy chill when someone's kindness feels rehearsed, when their praise hides something colder behind their eyes? Here's the truth most people never see coming. Not every enemy declares war. Some disguise themselves as allies. They study you, mirror you, and wait. They blend into your circle so effortlessly that by the time you sense something's wrong, the damage is already done. This isn't paranoia, it's awareness. Because in a world built on appearances, survival belongs to those who can read the unseen. Some people don't lash out in anger. They calculate, they plan, they observe. And when the moment finally comes, they strike with precision so quiet you almost admire it before you realize it's aimed at you. The most frightening thing about these people is how normal they seem. They look like everyone else, your colleague, your friend, even the one who offers advice when you're at your lowest. They're patient, polite, disarming, and when their true motives are finally revealed, it's usually too late. In this video, you'll uncover 5 warning signs that separate simple dislike from something far darker, something deliberately sinister. Recognizing these signs might be the difference between staying safe and becoming another story people whisper about later. So ask yourself, do you really know who stands beside you? Or are you unknowingly standing next to someone who's just waiting for the perfect moment to watch you fall? Let's begin. Sign number 1, the silent observer. The deadliest predator doesn't roar before it attacks. The lion that growls gives its prey a chance to run. But the silent hunter, the one who waits in stillness, that's the one you never see coming. When someone doesn't just dislike you, but truly wants to erase you from their path, they become what I call the silent observer. This isn't your nosy coworker or an ex checking your social media. This is someone who studies you with purpose, tracking where you go, who you talk to, what you love and what you fear. They gather data, not out of interest, but out of intent. And the terrifying part is, you rarely notice. Because unlike open haters, the silent observer never threatens you. They don't need to. Their weapon is patience, and their power is invisibility. Maybe you've already met one without realizing it. Have you ever had someone mention a place you went, even though you never told them? Have you noticed a face appearing again and again at the cafe, the gym, the street corner, always there, almost like coincidence, until it stops feeling like one? At first, it seems harmless. Then it becomes unsettling, and before you know it, you start to wonder, how long have they been watching me? In today's world, stalking doesn't require hacking or Hollywood spy tools. All it takes is curiosity and time. You might not post your daily routine online, but your friends do. You might not share your schedule, but people around you reveal more than they realize. A silent observer doesn't need your password, only access to your circle. Piece by piece, they collect fragments of your life until they can see the whole picture. And once they know enough, they don't just watch from the shadows anymore. They start stepping into your story. You remember the silent observer, the one who watches, waits, and collects every detail. But what happens when they start stepping into your world, not just watching from the distance, but weaving themselves into the rhythm of your everyday life? It begins quietly. Someone tags you in a photo at a restaurant you didn't mention visiting. A colleague casually brings up the gym you go to, though you never told them where it was. A neighbor comments on your work schedule with uncanny precision. One by one, these fragments come together, like puzzle pieces forming a map of your life. And once that map is complete, they begin to move inside it, perfectly positioned, perfectly disguised. At first, it feels harmless. You bump into them at the cafe you visit every morning. Then again at the gym, where they somehow always seem to be finishing a workout just as you arrive. Sometimes they even strike up small talk, pretending it's coincidence. But something deep inside whispers, this isn't random. Their timing feels too perfect, their presence too constant. They know things they shouldn't. They appear in places that don't make sense. You try to brush it off. You tell yourself not to be paranoid. Maybe it's just bad luck, right? But this isn't paranoia. This is pattern. This is calculated observation dressed in coincidence. There was once a man named Daniel who ignored these very signs until it was too late. Daniel lived a simple life, a creature of routine. Morning coffee at the same cafe, an afternoon workout at the same gym, a quiet evening walk home under the same streetlights. Predictable, peaceful. Until one day, he noticed a new face at his gym, a man named Ryan. Quiet, polite, never intrusive, always in the background. At first, Daniel didn't think much of it, but soon Ryan began appearing everywhere. First at the gym, then at Daniel's favorite coffee shop, then again at the grocery store, always nearby, always within sight. A familiar shadow that never seemed to fade. Still, Daniel told himself it was nothing, until one night as he walked home, he looked up and saw Ryan again, standing silently across the street, watching, not by accident, not by chance. And in that moment, every small coincidence suddenly made perfect, horrifying sense. The silent observer doesn't rush. They don't lose control. Their greatest weapon is patience, and their goal is simple, to know you better than you know yourself. Because the more they know, the easier it becomes to find the perfect moment to strike. So how do you protect yourself? By noticing. Not through fear, but through awareness. Who always seems to show up where you are? Who knows things they shouldn't possibly know? Who makes you feel uneasy, even when everything looks fine? Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Your mind will take the shape of what you frequently hold in thought." If you ignore the signs, if you silence your instincts, you give the silent observer exactly what they want, invisibility. Trust your intuition, because when something feels wrong, it usually is. And in a game where your safety, maybe even your life, could be on the line, the deadliest mistake isn't overreacting, it's assuming no one is watching. Sign number 2, the quiet betrayal. Not all attacks arrive loudly. Some are subtle, slow, deliberate, and poisonously patient. Like venom slipped into a drink, they take effect over time. The most dangerous enemies aren't the ones who confront you. They're the ones who smile in your presence, while quietly dismantling everything you've built. Emily once thought the struggles at her job were just normal challenges. A tough co-worker, the occasional misunderstanding, nothing unusual. But then, little by little, she began to sense something had changed. Her boss, who once valued her input, suddenly became distant. Colleagues who used to confide in her now avoided eye contact. Invitations that once came easily stopped altogether. And the strangest part? No one could explain why. There was no big argument, no dramatic fallout, just a series of tiny, well-placed distortions. A rumor whispered here, a harmless comment twisted there. At first, Emily blamed herself. Maybe she'd said something wrong. Maybe she'd been careless. But as the pattern unfolded, the truth emerged. Someone was working against her, not through open conflict, but through quiet sabotage. They say betrayal cuts deep, but the truth is, when it's done with patience, it doesn't strike like a sword. It seeps in like water carving through stone, slow, silent, and unstoppable. That's how real betrayal works. The person behind it rarely acts directly. They don't confront, they influence. They whisper just enough to make others question you, twist the truth just enough to make your words sound unreliable. They plant tiny seeds of doubt and then let others water them without ever realizing they've been used. And the cruelest part? You never see it happening. By the time you do, the damage is already done. Your name has been stained, your reputation cracked, and you're left wondering how it all began. The Stoics understood this kind of manipulation long before us. Marcus Aurelius, the emperor himself, was surrounded by those who sought his downfall, not through war, but through deceit. Yet he never chased every rumor or fought every whisper. He wrote, "The opinion of 10,000 men is of no value if none of them know the truth." He knew that truth isn't decided by the crowd. A person who lives only for appearances, who measures worth by how others see them, will always be at the mercy of lies. But the one who draws strength from within remains untouched, no matter what's said about them. That's where most people fall. They assume harm must be loud, visible, or violent to be real. But a Stoic knows better. Betrayal often walks in silence. Conflict doesn't always announce itself with an argument. Sometimes it unfolds quietly in the background, while you go about your day unaware that trust is being chipped away, piece by piece. And the purpose of every betrayal is the same, to leave you isolated, uncertain, and weak. So how do you defend yourself? First, remember that reputation is fragile, but character is unbreakable. Others can shape how you're seen, but they cannot touch who you are. Epictetus once said, if someone speaks ill of you, do not defend yourself. Instead, live in such a way that no one will believe them. Let your actions, not accusations, define you. Second, observe without emotion. Don't become paranoid, but don't be blind either. If confusion, gossip, or conflict always seem to follow a particular person, take note. If your circle starts shifting, if trust begins to dissolve for no reason, there's a pattern worth noticing. The wise do not accuse without reason, but they also do not ignore what repeats. Finally, fortify your inner circle. A lone person is easy to manipulate. Strengthen bonds with those who truly know your heart. People who see through deception, who stand by you not because of rumors, but because of truth. Seneca warned, associate with those who will make a better man of you. Welcome those whom you yourself can improve. The right people don't just defend your name. They protect your soul. They recognize lies for what they are, and they remind you of who you truly are when the world tries to tell a different story. Betrayal may not always roar, but it always reveals itself. Especially when your foundation is built on truth rather than opinion. Because the ones who try to undermine you can only succeed if you give them power. The power of your fear, your doubt, your need to be believed. So stand firm, see clearly, and never hand an enemy more power than they deserve. Sign of 3, the mask of friendship. The most dangerous enemy isn't the one who opposes you openly. It's the one who stands beside you, smiling, listening, pretending to care, all while hiding a blade behind their back. Betrayal rarely comes from a stranger. It almost always comes from someone you've let close, someone you've trusted, welcomed, and allowed into your life so deeply that when they finally turn, they already know exactly where to strike. It's never the enemy outside the walls that destroys you. It's the one who already holds the keys. Consider James, a man known for his caution, a man who guarded his circle carefully. He'd always been selective about who he allowed in, but when he changed jobs and met Daniel, things felt different. Daniel wasn't just another co-worker. He was charismatic, attentive, and disarmingly kind. He listened. He asked questions that made James feel seen. He offered thoughtful advice at just the right moments. He seemed genuine, almost too genuine. Over time, their bond deepened. Within months, Daniel knew everything. James's habits, his ambitions, his frustrations, even his private doubts. He didn't just become James's confidant. He became part of his world. He met James's friends, his family, his wife. Everyone liked him. Everyone trusted him. But then, the shift began. A personal project James had poured months into was suddenly reassigned to someone else. Sensitive details he'd only shared with Daniel started surfacing in conversations at work, twisted, manipulated, used against him. At first, James thought it was coincidence. But the pattern grew too sharp to ignore. And when he finally confronted Daniel, hoping there had been a misunderstanding, Daniel simply smiled, laughed it off as if nothing had happened. That's the chilling truth about a false friend. Unlike an obvious enemy, they don't attack you openly. They don't threaten or argue. They embed themselves so deeply into your trust that when the knife finally turns, it feels almost personal. They don't need to destroy your defenses, because you've already given them the blueprint. A Stoic would call this the danger of blind trust. Marcus Aurelius once warned, "Be wary of those too eager to stand by your side, for the man who needs to prove his loyalty is often the one most likely to betray you." Real loyalty doesn't need to announce itself. It proves itself quietly, through time, consistency, and truth. But the false friend? They move fast. They skip the natural rhythm of friendship. They rush your comfort, blur your boundaries, and make you feel as if you've known them for years. Because the sooner they earn your trust, the sooner they can use it. Think about the people in your life. Has someone recently taken an unusual interest in you? Have they gone from distant to overly familiar almost overnight? Do they always want to know where you are, who you're with, what's troubling you? Do they frame themselves as your biggest supporter, yet somehow make you doubt yourself in the process? A true friend strengthens you. A false one studies you. A real friend wants your peace. A false one wants access, because access is power, and in the wrong hands, power becomes a weapon. History offers brutal reminders of this truth. Julius Caesar never suspected that Brutus, the ally he trusted most, would one day stand among his assassins. Seneca himself once wrote, "A prosperous man has the most to fear, not from his enemies, but from his friends." When you possess something valuable, your career, your reputation, your peace of mind, there will always be those who want it for themselves. And they rarely come at you with open hostility. They come smiling, friendly, curious, wearing the perfect mask of friendship. So how do you protect yourself? The first step is awareness. Notice the changes in how people treat you. If someone becomes unusually eager to be close, to know every detail of your thoughts and routines, pause. Ask yourself why. The second step is patience. True friendship takes time to grow. It deepens slowly through shared experiences and mutual trust. But a false friend? They move fast. They blur boundaries, force closeness, and make you feel obligated before you've even had a chance to think. Because speed is their weapon, and trust is their target. Their goal isn't companionship, it's control. Every false friend who studies you, flatters you, and gains your trust is really seeking one thing: power over your inner world. That's why you must protect it. Not everyone deserves access to your thoughts, your fears, or your vulnerabilities. Epictetus once taught, "The more you reveal of yourself, the more you give others the power to use it against you. Guard what you share. Choose carefully, because the greatest threat doesn't always come from the ones who stand against you. It often comes from those standing close enough to whisper in your ear while hiding a knife behind their back." Sign number 4, the gradual attack. No one descends into violence without warning. Before a storm breaks, the air grows thick, the wind shifts, the sky darkens. Nature always gives signs, and so do people. When someone harbors true malice, they rarely explode without cause. They test, they escalate, they measure how much they can get away with before making their move. And if you ignore those signs, you may not realize the danger until it's already upon you. Consider Nathan, a quiet, good-natured man who brushed off his co-worker Eric's dark sense of humor. Eric loved to joke about violence, about losing control, about snapping one day. Always with a grin, always followed by laughter that made it sound harmless. But one afternoon, Eric took it a step further. He joked about how easy it would be to get rid of someone without leaving a trace. Nathan laughed awkwardly, trying to play along. After all, it was just a joke, wasn't it? Soon, though, something changed. Eric began standing too close during conversations, a little too close. He started blocking doorways, testing Nathan's comfort, watching how he'd react. He would accidentally bump into him, each time harder than before. Then one day he slammed a heavy object onto Nathan's desk and whispered, "Imagine if that was your head." That's how escalation works. It never starts big. It begins with small violations dressed as humor, disguised as accidents. A joke about violence here, a passive-aggressive comment there. Then a casual flash of a weapon, a hand that lingers too long on your shoulder, a shove masked as playfulness. Each act, no matter how small, is a test, to see how far they can push before you push back. And here's the danger. If you laugh it off, they take it as permission. If you stay silent, they see it as weakness. Every time you ignore a red flag, the next one grows darker. Because what begins as just a joke often ends as something far worse. The Stoics never confused calmness with passivity. True strength isn't pretending danger doesn't exist. It's recognizing it without fear. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." In other words, facing the threat head-on, calmly, clearly, and early, is what turns fear into power. Avoiding confrontation doesn't make a threat disappear. It only gives it space to grow. So what can you do? First, acknowledge the pattern. If someone repeatedly makes violent jokes, displays aggression, or invades your space, don't dismiss it as harmless. Patterns reveal intent. Second, set boundaries immediately. A Stoic doesn't act out of fear, but they also don't tolerate disrespect. Address it firmly. Make it clear what behavior is unacceptable, and if that line keeps being crossed, walk away. Third, take action before it's too late. Trust what you observe. Keep notes if necessary. Talk to someone you trust. And if the situation escalates, protect yourself, physically, emotionally, and legally if needed. Seneca once wrote, "A sword never kills anybody by itself. It is merely the hand that wields it." Violence never appears out of nowhere. It's preceded by warning signs. subtle, creeping, deliberate. And the sooner you recognize them, the sooner you can stop being the target and start being the one who sees clearly. The sooner you recognize the signs, the greater your chance of stopping danger before it unfolds. Because not all threats reveal themselves in noise or chaos. Some move quietly, slowly, playing a much longer game than you could ever imagine. Sign number 5, the long game. Some enemies are impulsive, reckless, and loud. You can spot them from a distance. But others are patient, silent, strategic, and it's these you must fear the most. The most dangerous enemy isn't the one who acts in anger. It's the one who waits, who observes, who plans every step before taking it. Picture Ethan, a man who trusted his instincts. He had a gift for reading people, sensing tension, detecting deception. That intuition had protected him many times before, but even he wasn't ready for Daniel. Daniel was a co-worker, friendly, consistent, and loyal, or so it seemed. He never argued, never showed envy, never said a cruel word, always calm, always helpful. Over the years, Ethan came to see Daniel as a true friend. He shared everything with him, career goals, finances, personal struggles, even family matters. And Daniel listened. Always listened. What Ethan didn't know was that Daniel wasn't listening out of care, but calculation. Every conversation was a note in a mental file. Every story was a data point. Every trust Ethan offered became another weapon waiting to be used. Then one day, it all collapsed. The promotion Ethan had been working toward for years was suddenly given to someone else. Private details, things he had shared only with Daniel, began circulating around the office. Rumors, whispers, half-truths that eroded his reputation from within. And when Ethan finally saw it for what it was already too late. His peace, his confidence, his credibility, all gone. That's the power of the patient enemy. They never rush. They don't act out of emotion. They plan with time as their ally. Unlike the impulsive attacker, they make every move with precision. They wait until the perfect moment, when you've let your guard down, when you've stopped paying attention. And that's when they strike. These people often appear overly interested in your future. They ask about your goals, your travel plans, your schedule, but not out of curiosity. They're mapping your movements. They're studying your vulnerabilities. They want to know when you'll be alone, when you'll be tired, when you won't see it coming. And that's what makes them so dangerous. They hide in plain sight. No sudden anger. No clear red flags. Just quiet consistency that feels like trust. They build comfort. They earn belief. And they wait. Sometimes for months. Sometimes for years. Until the opportunity is perfect. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." The patient enemy understands this truth better than anyone. They hide their darkness under layers of charm, kindness, and loyalty, allowing you to paint them as good, until the day they reveal what they've truly been thinking all along. So how do you protect yourself? First, be mindful of those who take an unusual interest in your private life. Curiosity isn't always danger, but excessive curiosity is a signal. If someone seems too invested in your every detail, take note. Second, never overshare. The Stoics believed in self-sufficiency. Rely on your own judgment. Keep your private world private. Because once you give away your personal information, your emotions, or your plans, you give away leverage. And finally, trust patterns, not words. Time is the great revealer. A true friend proves themselves over and over through action. A patient enemy waits until you stop watching. So pay attention not to what people say, but to what they repeat. If you ever notice this pattern, the slow manipulation, the quiet data gathering, the careful timing, understand this. You're not dealing with a minor rival. You're facing a calculated threat. And survival in these moments depends not on reacting, but on seeing the danger before it strikes. Before this video ends, I want you to do 2 things. First, save this video. The signs you've learned today aren't just information. They could be the difference between awareness and regret. Remember, the most dangerous threats aren't the ones you see, but the ones you overlook. Second, watch the video appearing on your screen now. It will show you how to recognize covert narcissists, because the kind of people we've talked about today often share one thing in common, a mask that hides their true nature. The more you understand their patterns, the harder it becomes for them to control you. If this message opened your eyes, write "I see clearly" in the comments. Because once you recognize these signs, you can never unsee them. And if you want to keep sharpening your awareness, learning how to read people, protect your peace, and stay one step ahead, like this video, subscribe, and stay connected. Remember, knowledge is your first weapon, but action is what keeps you safe. Stay sharp, stay aware, and above all, stay in control. I'll see you in the next video.